Бомбосховище в Бучі. Багато дітей. Ось тут зібралися. В основному сім'ї з дітьми. Для дітей це як гра.
Viacheslav is a former BBC journalist and political science graduate from Bucha in the Ukraine. Viacheslav was in Bucha on the 24th of February 2022 when Russian troops crossed the border and the invasion began. Welcome, Viacheslav.
Yeah, hello.
So let's start from the beginning. You grew up in Bucha. How would you describe the town?
Yeah, I'm 38 now. I'm native Bucha resident, and so I got education here in Bucha. And Bucha is not very big suburban town, suburban to Kiev. So it's like 30 kilometers from Ukrainian capital. It was quite small at the start of 2000s, but last 15 years or something, it became more and more inhabited with a lot of people who came from, who just don't want to live in Kiev, but live in some suburbs to have some private houses and so on. So it's Bucha, something like town for some young families. A lot of young people decided to buy their apartments here because it's a little bit cheaper than in Kiev and so on. Also, there are a lot of some older people who just live here for decades and so on. And then before the start of Russian invasion, it was near 50,000 of inhabitants of resident in Bucha. Now it's like no one knows exactly, but I think it's 30,000, maybe 40. Quite a lot of Bucha residents left because of the war.
And how would you describe your own childhood in Bucha, right? So it sounds like it's a kind of a middle class, up and coming town, an exciting place to be, close to a major city. It's kind of fashionable. Was it kind of a fashionable type of town?
It's not. I can say that it's posh, region, but it's quite good for some calm life near megapolis. That can be described. Kiev can be described as Ukrainian megapolis because we have a lot of parks here. Also wood area and so on. So if you want to live near nature, Bucha is very good for that. It's more or less calm, and it's just it takes like 40 or 50 minutes to get to Kiev. So yeah,
you're in Bucha right now, Viacheslav, right?
Yeah. I returned to Bucha 2 weeks after Russian occupation has ended. But during this, the exact period of Russian occupation, I was out of Bucha.
And how would you describe your own childhood in Bucha? Was it a kind of a traditional Ukrainian upbringing? Do you have brothers and sisters? And
yeah, I am the only child in my family. It was like ordinary childhood. I just grow up in this old style Bucha before I started to become more and more inhabited. Yes, so it was like calm, more or less happy childhood, and I like my childhood in Bucha. I like Bucha as my native town, and that's why it's so for me it's so difficult to realize what happened here just like since February, because can you imagine that your native town became a place for genocide? I don't know, no one can imagine that.
So we'll get to that now in a bit. I want to talk about the preceding events before February 24th as well. But just tell me, you went to university and you studied political science. Why did you choose political science?
I don't know. That was I had two ways: either philosophy or political science. I just decided to go for political science, and usually that's connected to some journalism. So, and I wanted to be journalist from my childhood, and so political science was one of way to get to journalism.
Journalism or politics, that's where you go, right?
Yes. Yeah, in Ukraine it's closely connected. You know, if you're a political scientist, you should be connected to media, to all this political situation.
So tell me, you were in Bucha leading up, in the months leading up to February 24th. What was that like? Was there tension building? You're obviously seeing events happening across in Russia. You know there's a buildup coming. We're hearing reports of crematoriums on the border, blood banks on the border. We know there's a buildup. Was it kind of how much of a shock was it when it actually happened?
That was a strange situation, because even during all this tension started first time in April or something, or March of 2021, so the year before, when Russia started to get its military to Ukrainian borders. And then it just stopped, and during the summer of 2021 nothing has happened, so everyone was relaxed. That's, come on, that was something like geopolitical maneuvers or some pressure, political pressure from Russia. And then since November 2021 it became one more. So even more Russian troops came to the Ukrainian borders, and also big military drills started in Belarus, Russian and Belarusians army. And then the situation was getting more and more serious, and of course we noticed that, but no one can imagine what's that gonna be. And I know in Bucha new apartment houses was built during that period. Some new shops and restaurants were opened. So it looks like that, come on, there is some politics and some pressure and some this I don't know, international affairs or so on happening between Ukraine and Russia, but people were living their ordinary life. But I can describe that you know, we have war in Ukraine since 2014.
Yeah.
When since an annexation of Crimea, and then when Russian proxy started war in Donbass, in the eastern part, because there was some Russian militaries, covered militaries, Igor Girkin, and they pretend to be native Donbass citizen, but that was false. And so in 2014 and 2015, there was like big fightings in eastern Ukraine. There was a Battle of Ilovaisk. There was like bloody for Ukrainian army, and then battle for Debaltseve, and some areas were annexed, occupied, let's say, by Russians, and they created so-called Donetsk and Luhansk People Republic, and so on. But everything that happened there, it was quite far from Bucha. It was like 700 kilometers from here, and for us that also was like news, nothing more. Of course, we know people who were fighting there, Ukrainian militaries, and some of Bucha residents were killed. And we supported Ukrainian army with donations and so on. But that was quite far. And then during this winter of 2022, situation became more and more serious, but I think everyone was thinking that okay, if some escalation gonna happen, it's all gonna be in Donbass, still in Donbass, because we saw that maybe there's a bigger scale of war burned out there, but not in Kiev, not in southern part, not in northern part, so on. And also the other thing was that Ukrainian government, including President Zelensky, they said that, come on, guys, that's not going to be a big invasion for scale war, no need for panic. We're going to have some, I don't know, good life in next spring. And they say that was like just international pressure.
Why do you think the Ukrainian government were convinced or believed that a full-scale invasion wasn't going to happen?
Now they say that they know that it may happen, but they just don't want to have panic, for not to ruin Ukrainian economy, for all business gonna quit, and so on. But and they say, but in truth they got prepared, and that might be half truth, because there is not so obvious situation. But before 2 days before of the start of invasion, something like 22nd of February, almost all, or I think all, international air companies took off all their planes from Kiev, from Ukraine. And the same was with embassies that take all their stuff from Kiev. And that was a sign, a real sign that something gonna happen. If that something like this is happening, you definitely should think about it's not just alarmism or something. And so I remember the night before 24th of February, I just we still didn't know what's gonna be. Still, we hoped if we can say so, that everything gonna be just in Donbass. And then I remember the post of the tweet of Hristo Groziev, this investigator journalist from Bellingcat, and he wrote something like, "Things looks grim for this night." And after that, in some Russian Telegram public, this Telegram messenger. It's mostly popular in Russia as well, in some Eastern European countries. So there started to appear post something like this name Z, Заходим. Заходим, that means in Russian language, that mean we are getting into, we are entrance. So, and that was this night of 24th of February, and that's how they show that something really started to happen.
So you're in Bucha, you're watching the television, you're online. You wake up, you see troops crossing the border, obviously on television, but also they're coming into Gostomel Airport, right? There's an attack on Gostomel Airport. We see air helicopter gunships over Kiev. So you're watching this online, right? You're seeing these events unfold. How are you dealing with that? Like, how are the people coping with that?
You know, everyone was shocked. Everyone can, you know, I think all Ukrainians can't realize that this is real war. You know, you can be prepared for that. That in you know, in your life you will live through real war, real full scale invasion. So everyone were shocked, and so people started to buy everything that they can, like water, pharmacy, I don't know, different just products to eat and so on. So there was like not real panic, but something close to this panic. And then we heard several explosions from Hostomel. That was missiles.
You heard them in Bucha. So how far is Hostomel Airport from the town?
Hostomel, it's 3 kilometers from my house.
And you're hearing these explosions.
Yeah. So formally, Hostomel is something like part of Bucha region.
Yeah.
So they are very connected. And then afterwards, I think, I don't know, at midday or something, we heard a sound of planes. And that was very weird, because we know that there is no planes in Ukraine at the moment. It turned out that was Russian fighters, fighter planes that were supported this airborne operation. They have to support these helicopters. Yeah, more than 30 helicopters that came to Hostomel. And that was also weird sound, like something like machinery, I don't know, some vehicles. So firstly, we didn't realize that was helicopters. Maybe, I don't know, some armored vehicles of Ukrainian army or something. And then there was the fighting started in Hostomel. We heard then the sounds of shootings, explosions, blow-ups, and then I just remember that I came out of my house and just saw big smoking column, or how you can describe it. I have even for photos for this, and then I realized that it's too close it's too fast and too close for me, and I have a little child. So after that, I decided that it is better to leave Bucha, and it's better to leave it now, because it was obvious that after Hostomel they started to approach to Kyiv. And so I left Bucha in 3 p.m. of 24th of February, but my friends and my relatives stayed here. So I was in permanent contact with them. So while that was possible, and what was happening in Hostomel, that I know was that now that so there was Russian paratroopers there, and they wanted to prepare landing space for Russian bigger air cargos, so-called eels, for them to get more Russian troops here, and to make it more fast and bigger attack on Kiev. Until the end of the day, Russian army Ukrainian army, managed to fight the Russians off the Hostomel, so it was under control of Ukrainians.
So were the Ukrainian army preparing for an attack on Hostomel?
It was not fully prepared, because part of the unit that was based in Hostomel, it was on that time in Donbass. So there was something like just conscripts that were not experienced, and some other units. But after everything has started, and that became obvious that Russians want to attack Kiev throughout Hostomel, and maybe with further air operation, more units came to Hostomel, including artillery, some special forces, and so they were able to fight back Russian on that day. But in the next day, more Russian troops came by land. There was big mechanized convoy who came from Belarus, and they managed to cut through the Ukrainian defense line, and they came to Hostomel.
So how far is the Belarusian border from Hostomel from Bucha?
Near 100 kilometers, maybe 80 kilometers.
So the convoy, the famous convoy that we saw, it started after the 24th of February, right? Coming down.
Yeah, but they started from this Chernobyl exclusion zone at the morning of 24th of February, and they managed to come like in 2 days to Hostomel.
Okay, so at this point, you leave on the 24th of February, right? In the afternoon times, and you go west. Where did you go? You drove, did you?
Yeah, I was lucky because I had my car prepared for this, because we all feel something to get prepared, at least for your vehicle. And so in 4 hours I got to my relatives in one of western regions.
Okay, so now you're safe. You're in the western region of Ukraine.
Yeah, that was safe there, but I remember that when I drove from Bucha, a lot of Ukrainian army came here, and that was like very unexpected for me, just to see even this real artillery, like big guns and so on. So we didn't realize that that's such a serious situation, that you need real big artillery power there.
So you get out. So on the 24th, 25th of February, you're in Western Ukraine. At some point, so the Ukrainian army repels the initial attacks. At some point, the Russians come down to Bucha and they create a new front line, right? And they take over Bucha. When did that happen? Like, what was happening between the 24th and 26th and 27th? What were happening in the days following that?
It was like no one knows what really happens, because there was some fighting near Hostomel, Ukrainian artillery reached that convoy that was in Hostomel. But on 27th of February, Russians made their first try to get through Bucha and then in Irpin to surround Kiev, because all other bridge for them, if they want to come from Hostomel to Kiev, blown up by Ukrainian army. So they had this pass through Bucha, and then next town next to Bucha, Irpin called, and then probably they want to approach to some southern regions, and in this way comes to near to Kiev, maybe enter Kiev, and so on. So they came through Bucha, and the first convoy that was in Bucha was destroyed by Ukrainian army, Ukrainian artillery. Also, there was some local defense, so-called territorial defense.
Defense, yeah.
There were some local Bucha residents in it, and also it was said that it was destroyed as well by Bayraktar drones. This
Bayraktar, the Iranian-made drones.
No, it's Turkish.
Turkish drones. Okay, the Turkish Bayraktar drones, right? So the Ukrainian army had those drones, did they?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it sounds like there's very serious fighting taking place in Bucha as the Russians are trying to get down to Kiev at this point, right? Yeah. When did they take the town? Like, when did they occupy the town?
Yes, it was like another strange situation, because a lot of local residents were even relaxed that, come on, okay, Ukrainian army demolished this Russian convoy. Maybe we can, a little bit relax, and probably they will come other way, or I don't know. There was lack of information. And even local authorities said that Bucha is free now, and everything is okay, everything under control. But then on 3rd of March, so like several days after that convoy, Russians appeared in western part of Bucha. So they came. Hostomel is on the north from Bucha, and but Russians came some other way. There also a town called Borodyanka that was almost completely destroyed by Russians, even by Russian aviation, and they came to Bucha from other direction and tried to also come to Irpin, but they didn't manage to do that, and they were stopped, and so then this front line appeared almost between Bucha and Irpin, and like heavy fighting started between Ukrainian defenders of Irpin, let's say in south, and Russian invaders in the north.
So okay, and at what point then do they take? So they get the upper hand at some point, and they occupy the town of Bucha, right? Do you know when that happened? Like, that was early in March.
Yeah, that was 3rd and 4th of March when this occupation started.
So you're in Western Ukraine at this stage, and obviously you're hearing from family members, you're talking to them, and you know now that the Russian army are occupying Bucha.
Yeah, there was still some electricity in 4th of March. And so there was network, mobile connection, and internet. So I could read local chat. There was some local chats for neighbors. Yeah, and also I called to my relatives, and they say that we can see this Russian BMD with this signs V, also Z, and also V, that was from like different Russian regions. And so that was like shock for me, because I thought that I come back and took my relatives with me.
You came back to Bucha?
No, I tried to do that, but then there was some statements of local authority as well that you can't use this road from western part because it is cut off by Russians even before the 3rd of March. So it was like I just didn't know what to do. You know, what is the proper way to make this some sort of evacuation. And this is what is really weird, that this days in Bucha there was quite calm. There was not fighting before this 3rd of March, between 27th and 3rd. So a lot of people thought that maybe everything has ended. Yeah, but that was a really bad mistake. And so then Russians came in Bucha. The occupation started. I don't know why they cut off even water supply. They shoot on water tower, and then just relatives were without water, and also the power disappeared because they cut it off, and mobile connection was episodically. It was like sporadically. You can call like this minute, and in 5 minutes you will not be able to do that.
But if you wanted people to leave the city, if you wanted residents and locals to leave the town, you'd cut off the water supply, right? Because then they would have to evacuate the town. So if you want to hold the town and get rid of potentially,
but it is known that they shoot some cars that try to civil cars that try to come up out of Bucha by Russians soldiers. So it was not obvious they want all of civil population to come away from Bucha, and afterwards it became obvious that they want some population stayed in Bucha, and so Ukrainian artillery will not demolish all town with Russian troops who are hiding near this building. So they need some civil population. But during this period, I think like two weeks or something, they allowed several waves of evacuation. It was more, it's like it was matter of talks, and officially they allowed that like in I don't know, 8th of March, it is allowed to come away from Bucha, come out of Bucha by civilian buses and civilian private cars, but only just in special convoy and only by special roads. If you come in some other way, it was very dangerous, and a lot of people were killed like that because they just don't know that Russian decided to shoot everyone there, and Russians said that we will not allow you come by car or something because we think that you might be Ukrainian intelligence agents and so on.
So they allowed a route out. If you go out that route that the Russians allow, they say they're not going to shoot up the cars. But if you do another route,
that happened just like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times, 4 or 5 days, like from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock, and then it has stopped like in mid of March. So they didn't allow anyone to come and even buy food.
Okay. So so you come back, you try and get some members of your family out, and were you able to get them out, or did you go back to Western Ukraine?
No, no, I didn't manage to do that, and but luckily they come away with one of their neighbor.
Okay.
Like in 12th of March. So they used this road. And so, but that was very nervous, day, and their mobile phone were almost out of power because they didn't have any electricity. So it was really difficult to connect to them. But luckily, I think that was like last chance to come, because after that all evacuation has stopped.
Okay, so the evacuation stops. Bucha is now in the control of the Russians, and for a period of weeks, some horrific things are happening. Were you getting any communication of of what was unfolding in Bucha during the Bucha occupation? Did you know what was happening? Were people sending you photographs, or did it emerge later what had actually happened?
Yeah, photographs were sent just in first days, when people still have electricity and some batteries on their phones and mobile connection. After that, there was only text messages, messages in these local chats. And so there were messages something like, one resident was killed in the yard of one building, and on the other day there was just several sentences that one woman was cooking in the other yard, and several Russian troops came into yard. She was scared of them and started to go away, start running, and they killed her. I don't know what was their logic. So, and that such messages, they appeared like during all these months of March, months of occupation, and there was something like surname of some person and got killed when he tried to get water for his neighbors and so on. And the situation was worsening from the first day to last days of March, because there was some rotation of Russian units there, and some locals tried to agree some operations with Russians, with Russian troops. For example, can I have like water or come to my relatives through these roads inside Bucha? And some Russian commanders allowed that. But after that, they were rotated, and new troops came, and they just shoot people who thought that they are safe to do something. Also, locals were said to get some white material, white stripes on there, and so that was like guarantee not to be shot. Not to be shot, but turned out that till the end of March, it didn't work. And on photos from Bucha after the occupation, you can see some killed people with white stripes.
So if a local resident was wearing, there's an agreement, if you're wearing a white band on your arm, you won't be shot, but in actual fact, they were executed.
Yeah, it was not any guarantee, you know.
Okay.
And
So where
they just started to kill people on bikes and so on.
Yeah, on bicycles. So somebody
Yeah,
is
yeah.
cycling down the road. Maybe they stop at a checkpoint or something and they're shot. So you're hearing about this from Western Ukraine. Where did you know where the Ukrainian army were? Were they planning to take back the town? It seems like a 6-week period seems like a long time, or even a 7-week period to occupy a town like Bucha. And I'm just wondering, where were the Ukrainian army? Were they reinforcing? Were they getting more troops? What was going on, do you think?
Yeah, Ukrainian army was in Irpin and in other neighboring southern part of this Kiev region. And the Russians tried to get through the fence line and to come to there is so-called Zhetom highway that was a little bit more south from Bucha, and there were heavy fightings there in all this, like in a new front line. But Russians all these months they tried to get through Irpin, and they tried to control like 10 or 15% of Irpin, but no more. So they were just fought back, and then it became more and more obvious that Russians will not manage to have this fast and efficient operation to surround Kiev. And more Ukrainian units came there to Kiev, and there became some danger for Russians to be surrounded near Kiev. And also they had a lot of problems with communication, with provision. Their convoys were destroyed by Ukrainian artillery or special forces during the march. When they were on the march, was not enough intelligence and some support, so their cargo, full cargo, and so on, they were exploded by Ukrainian infantry, and so it became obvious that Russians will not have success near Kiev, and that's why at one point they decided to withdraw, to fled.
So they decided to withdraw at the end of March, maybe the start of April, right? Can you remember when?
Yeah, I remember. That was 31st
of March. Right.
31st of March. There was a tweet of one of Ukrainian soldier who was operator of drone, and he was constantly flying above Bucha and so on. And on the 31st of March, he just wrote Bucha and Irpin are clear, no Russians at all.
Okay. So we're talking about a relatively short period of time, about 4 weeks, where there's an occupation.
Yes, I think 1 month, little bit more than one month.
1 month.
Let's say.
And then we find out, everybody across the world finds out later about what was happening during that 4 or 5 week period. And we discover, so the Ukrainian troops move back in and take back the town in early April, and they discovered a mass grave, right?
Yes. Yeah, there was like 1st or 2nd of April when Russian Ukrainian police came into Bucha, because on the first days there was danger for I don't know, mining and so on. So it was not allowed for civilians to come back to Bucha. And then just some special forces came into Bucha, and afterwards, I think 2nd or 3rd of April, came police, and they start documenting, start shooting everything that can happen in Bucha, including dead bodies on the Bucha on the streets. Yeah, including mass grave near Ukrainian church. So and that's how this process of documenting of Russian war crimes started.
Yeah. So they were shooting people. We all saw the pictures. They were shooting people in the streets of the town, but not removing the bodies and just leaving them to lie there. That seems so insane, because you're literally leaving the evidence of war crimes.
I don't know why. They were just, maybe they didn't care about that, because they were so confident that no one will know who they are, who made that. But I remember even from this local resident group chat of the first day, there was like 3 killed in one house, and Russian didn't allow to bury them, to put them to graves. So they that body just their neighbors put them in someone, and they just left there for 1 week. I don't know why they didn't allow to bury people, but probably mass grave was allowed to make with Russian, but to left just people lying killed on the streets, I don't know. I don't know this logic and why they decided to do that.
Okay, so how many people roughly do you think, how many civilians do you think were killed during that period?
I think more than 400 in Bucha, more than 400 roughly. Probably there also were some people from nearest villages and so on. So I think several hundreds for sure. But I just didn't check the last numbers of that, but I think that was near from 400 to 500.
And were they primarily young men? Were they men primarily?
No, just all of a lot of women as well, a lot of older people as well, but a lot of them were killed by shooting, and not by shelling from mortars or artillery or so on. They were shot. So that was made by, not by some, people who shot them. They definitely know that what they're doing. For example, my classmate was shot in head. He was found in mass grave, and he was policeman. I don't know. No one knows details of his death, but that was happened. Also, these guys from local territorial defense, 8 of them, they were captured by Russians. They didn't manage to come away in time, and then they were beaten. And one of them said about that they are from local defense. BBC made this film about that. And afterwards they were shot with machine gun, with Kalashnikov gun. So that's also a war crime, because killing of captured soldiers, but they even were not real soldiers. Local defense. There was guys who decided to defend their town like week before. So they were not ordinary soldiers. And but But anyway, Russian decided to kill them, to shoot them.
It's what I struggle to understand is how indiscriminate it is. Like, captured soldiers are one thing, but shooting women who have no involvement, and it just seems so almost chaotic and almost.
Yeah, there is this situation with a woman on bicycle. New York Times wrote about that was killed by machine gun from some vehicle of Russian convoy. Maybe Russians were scared that all eyewitnesses will call or will, I don't know, message Ukrainian artillery, and artillery will show them. But I know several cases when civil cars were shot with children inside. There are also several shot car with sign of children. That's also, I don't know, maybe Russians were so shocked or so unprofessional. Troopers just decided to shoot everything that they can, just not to be, I don't know, to be killed from by Ukrainian army that was informed by locals.
So at this point, then, so the Ukrainian army come in. They've taken back the town. Russians retreat. The convoy is destroyed. We all saw the convoy is destroyed. We discover the mass grave. It's all over the news, and the full horror of what went on over those 4 weeks emerges. Do you know, you were back in Western Ukraine at this stage, right?
Yes.
Do you know if the ICC, the International Criminal Court, were getting involved at this time? Were there people were there investigators on the ground trying to discover what had happened and put the pieces together in April?
I don't know. I'm not sure. I know that investigation of the Ukrainian authority is on its way. The security service of Ukraine, they are collecting all evidence of that, and also General Prosecutor Office as well. They are working, and probably they are working with international investigators. But I don't know if that happened in April. I think that the main investigation is now is made by security service. So they even have some number of Russian units that were in Bucha, because I don't know, Russian soldiers are very weird. They are just put signs of their brigade. For example, this 64th brigade from Khabarovsk, that's far east of Russia, and they put on some buildings that they were controlled. That was, I don't know, for them something
like graffiti. They were putting graffiti on the building of their particular unit that was in Bucha, right? So
yes.
Okay.
So that's a clear signs of Russian units, and near that building where that Ukrainian local defense was killed. So it's like 1 + 1 makes war crimes units.
Yeah. Well, the locals will have obviously photographic evidence. People have mobile phones. You know, there'll be a lot of evidence there. So, what's happening now in terms of Bucha, in terms of the future? Are you concerned about a possible second wave, a second attack coming down from Belarus? Do you think that's possible, or is that, because that's certainly what we're hearing in the Western media over here?
Yeah, it's completely a real danger, because why shouldn't they do that if they can? Now they have some lessons that were taught, and they know some roads from Belarus, and if we know that there is still ongoing mobilization in Russia, So when they have, let's say, 40 or 50,000 of troopers in Belarus, it became more and more dangerous for the second attack. Probably they can try not to come to Kiev, but to some western region that were not touched by war at the moment, just to cut off some roads to the west, to cut off this military aids and so on. It is even said that they may collect something like 200 of this mobilized troopers in Belarus. But the point is that Ukraine is better prepared now. All roads are mined now. Artillery know this all the position where they can shoot. Better intelligence, and that's what's happening alongside all border with Belarus. So and you know, this the first attempt of Russian were made by Russian elite forces, this airborne assault units and so on. I don't know if some new mobilized soldiers would be such would be able to repeat such attack when they don't have enough experience, don't have enough arms. So it's like there is such danger. We can say that there is no risk at all. But of course, we should, you know, take it seriously, but not something that's gonna happen 100%. And also, I think that we will see preparation in like 3 or 4 weeks beforehand, before their attempt to attack in the north, because now it's more obvious what they can do.
We're hearing a lot about the break in the fighting because of winter, and that we've been told, and we're hearing over here, that it'll slow everything down. So you have January freezing months, February and March freezing months, and it'll create a pause in the fighting. Are you anticipating that will happen, and there'll be a re-emergence of hostilities in March and April, or do you think the winter is affecting anything at all?
No, because even in 2015, one of the biggest fighting, one of the biggest battle in Donbass was during January and December, when there was fighting for Debaltseve. So it's I can't say that they will definitely not try to do this during winter, especially if we have this experience of 24th of February. Probably it's easier to attack during some cold weather, during frosts,
because when the ground is hard.
Yeah. And when winter is warm, it's like not easy. But I don't know, now they don't have bridges and roads from the north, because they are either destroyed or mined.
How concerned are you with the mobilization, the rumors of mobilization, and what we're hearing coming out of Russia in terms of troop numbers, that there could be a massive mobilization? Is that concerning?
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely, even if they are like conscripts with lack of preparation, they still are soldiers, they are still military, and as we can see, Putin is not, so it's not afraid to lose a lot of his people. And for Ukrainian army, it's becoming a problem anyway, if even just several dozens of hundreds people just with Kalashnikov gun, still they are the danger. But Ukrainian army became more and more experienced, and in this case, so we'll see. And Ukraine also make its preparation, make its mobilization, but it definitely not in such a big scale, just for units that really need it, for like military specializations that are lacking in because of something, because of losses or something. So, but mobilization, if we are talking about some plans of like 500,000 conscripts, that's still a danger.
Is the ban on Ukrainian men leaving the country, is that still in place?
Yes. Yeah, it's it was imposed in the first days of war, and still there is some exceptions. For example, if you have 3 kids, you are allowed to come away. Also, it's allowed for temporary coming away, for volunteer organization, for some musician, artists, and so on. But you should come back in, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. Yeah, but it's still on place.
And what are in terms of Belarus, their involvement in the war, are you concerned about it, Belarus joining the war? Or do you think that's a red herring?
Yeah, because it's they have from 20 to 40,000 of professional army, but they are also inexperienced in real fighting, but still it's a professional army, and they have aviation, and they have military vehicles, tanks, relatively new. So it imposed some. It's also danger for us, for our northern western regions. But as we can see, they are not happy to take part in this war, because they also understand that that's going to be like a bloody adventure for them. And probably I remember that there was some news on first half of March that this night Belarus will come into war, and the Belarusian army started to invade some western region, including that region where I was at that point. But that didn't happen, and there is rumors that some generals just refused to do that. It's rumors, but anyway, it shows that if they really, the Belarus authority, Lukashenko, really wanted to take part in this invasion, they probably they started it before. I don't know, before summer, when the situation for Russians became worse on the front line. So we will see, but I can repeat that the Ukrainian army is prepared for this scenario as well.
And tell me, you're in Bucha now, so you obviously feel quite safe, right? So
yeah.
Do you think, are you going to stay in Bucha?
Probably yes. My family came away. They are abroad now, and for me it's relaxing for not to be with them, because this all shellings, missile shellings occurs, as well as blackouts, and when blackouts happening, it's also problem with water supply, with warming, and so on. So probably we will have more cold weather in weeks, and probably we will experience some other shellings with some other blackouts, and so on. But
Kiev is going to be heavily fortified, right? So would you not feel safer in Kiev itself?
Probably, I don't know. We'll see when they start prepare their second invasion. I don't know. I don't have like a real plan what to do now. But maybe it's gonna be more reasonable to come to Kyiv, or to come to some western regions, but not near Belarus. We will see.
You told me that the McDonald's has reopened in Bucha.
Yeah, that was symbolic event for Bucha, because a lot of supermarkets were closed, were looted by Russians, and McDonald's was closed, I think, from 27th of February, when there was first attempt of Russian convoy, because their building was suffered from shelling of Russian military vehicles, and so step by step all infrastructure restored in Bucha, and almost every shop was reopened. And then, like, I don't know, several weeks ago or something, McDonald's in Bucha also reopened, and it's a sign for Bucha residents that life is more or less safe here, and
And how? So the economy is back. How are you? Are you working, Viacheslav, in your regular job now, or?
Yeah. I can work because I work remotely, and that's why for me it's crucial to have power and internet. And we have in Bucha we have it's all across Ukraine, these points of fortitude. Have you heard? That was made by emergency services with some generators that were working from a gas line to generate electricity. So in these points, they are either tents or in some municipal buildings where you can come and work with electricity, with some warming, with internet. And when we had blackout for several days in Bucha in December, I worked from these points, and that was really helpful. And I really thankful for our municipal authorities, as they make this possible, and it's possible for me to stay in Bucha and work as well.
How impressed have you been with President Zelensky?
I don't know. I didn't vote for Zelensky, but I should say that he is doing well. Definitely, because no one expected such from former actor, from person who was he was even named as more or less pro-Russian candidate in 2 years ago, because he was said, come on, we should have a peaceful agreement with Russia almost anyway, and let's don't push such a question like language, Ukrainian language, Ukrainian culture, and so on. Let's make this more multicultural Ukrainian Russian Ukraine for example. Not exactly, yeah, but now he was. He definitely is more right politician than he was 2 years ago, and he's doing well. What he's doing best is that he allow Ukrainian army chief to make their work without any politics, without any some commands, some, I don't know, even public advertising or something. I don't know how to describe. So he's doing good job with this with army, and of course with on an international level. He's, you know, one of the most popular politician in the world, I think so. But from the other point of view, I think that this crazy inadequate idea of Putin to invade Ukraine in 2022 also was connected with presence of Zelensky on this post of president of Ukraine, because probably this Russian ex KGB agent, he definitely thought that he will scare Ukrainian President Zelensky, and probably Zelensky is not able to make any, you know, fight back and to act like it act in real life.
I'd say there's a lot of things that have been incredibly shocking. Obviously, the war looks like it was a miscalculation on so many different levels. What about Crimea? How likely is it, and how important is it to get Crimea back within Ukrainian control?
Yeah, you know, after all the suffering of Ukrainian people, after all these deaths, after Bucha, and after all other cities that were destroyed, and with thousands of civilians were killed, like in Mariupol, in Kherson, in Izum. For Zelensky, there is no way to stop on some point and say, okay, we will have peaceful agreement now, when Ukraine is not in its border, in its borders as it were, fully on like from 1991. It's like very difficult decision for for him. So it's unlikely. It may happen, definitely, of course, depending on the frontline situation and some other, maybe some international pressure and so on. But at present point now, it is said that Ukraine, Kiev, is gonna fight back all its territories, including Donbass, including the so-called People's Republic, and then including Crimea, even if it's connected with some nuclear danger.
Last question. What are your predictions for 2023? What do you think is going to happen over the next 6 to 12 months?
It is said by almost all of military commanders and so on that this year is not going to be easy or easier than 2022. And probably war is not gonna stop during the spring and even summer. But it might happen that till the next new year we will have some completely different situation. I'm not sure about peace, but probably the situation will be, it definitely will be closer to peace, and I hope it will be closer to peace on Ukrainian condition. And I think that we have all chances to get victory.
Viacheslav, good luck. Thank you very much. Here's to 2023. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.